Oh, okay. Folks, welcome back to You Like Toys episode 108. This is my Patreon exclusive podcast, but I'm putting it on YouTube. The exclusive part of it, at least for now, we're trying a new thing, is that it's a Q&A like it has been for 105 episodes. And those 105 episodes are all on my Patreon. But the Q&A part of it is only open to my patrons. So if you want to ask me questions, anything goes, but you got to post them on Patreon. So you got to be part of the community. Anyway, I'm AC. Welcome back to my channel. I'm wearing 3 sets of glasses. I promise I'll explain. This is ice cream. It's very good. So, welcome back. Episode 108. We've got some this is what we're doing tonight. Got some Q&A. I got questions from my patrons, which I'm really excited to get into because they're really hilarious and good. I've got some stuff to show you some pickups, some work I've been doing. Who knows? My buddy Ego might even make a cameo because I'm eating ice cream. He probably wants some. So we're gonna get into it. The glasses. These are reader glasses that I order off Amazon. I buy multiple pair to stash throughout my apartment, and I can't look directly at the camera until I take these off because I'll go blind. So I'm looking down. They are a 2.0, but I like the shape of the rims. They look nice. They're stylish. They cost I think they cost me $11 a piece. So I have them in my kitchen, on my table over there, on my table here, in my backpack to go with me to school. I'm a substitute teacher, and it's so that I don't lose them, or if they break, they're there, or if I walk in the other room and I forget to put them on, they're over there. So I've got them everywhere. So I can see good this way. I highly recommend picking some up, if for no other reason. They're excellent when you're working on stuff and you're painting little fine details and you're trying to get in close. I also use for the toy design segment of the show, these guys. These are for dentists, I guess. One of my dentist buddies gave them to me. And man, 3 pairs of these glasses plus these dentist things, I could see through my hands. It gives me invisible vision, or whatever it's called, X-ray vision. Anyway, these are good too, but for $11 you can't beat these. And I highly recommend. I've only broken 1 pair in 4 years, I guess, something like that. Now I can see good, see well. Anyway, they're called Foster Grant. Foster Grant. Go buy some so they stay in business. Foster Grant 2.0 reader glasses. I got them on Amazon for $11. They're great for customizing, painting. Even if you're drawing little stuff, you can zoom. Even if you have good eyes. I used to have great eyes until literally the day I turned 40. They just went bad, and so now, or they started to go bad. I'm gonna be eating this ice cream while we're talking just for a minute because I don't want it to melt. I really wanted some. Egum, you wanna come say hi? You want some creamy? Let's see if we can get Egum up here. Come on, Bo. You want creamy? Come here. Here you are. Come here, come say hi to everybody. There's a creamy vanilla. Is it very nice? Here. Is it very nice? All right, good boy. That's it, okay? All right, you guys can see more of Egum on my illustration YouTube, AC Draw Stuff. So the reason I'm eating ice cream, I guarantee once you guys, whoever's watching this, probably turned it off unless you're a member of my Patreon, in which case you've grown to accept garbage like this. And I promise I'm gonna get to everything. But I just posted something on Patreon, put up a post with a preview, sort of sneak peek exclusive of my new a new character that I'm working on in my illustration stuff, and the finished product of my Super Friends homage for my book, my children's book that I'm working on. So go check that out. And in that post, I said I was going to make some green tea and record this podcast. Green tea because it's healthy and keeps me up gives me a little bit of caffeine, so I made that. I followed through, guys. But I also had to get some ice cream, so I'm doing it up. All right, so there's your opener. 5 minutes of nonsense. So, since the last, my last podcast, episode 106, 107, I don't know. Let me check that. I should probably double check that. Since the last podcast, I had an excellent, a very, very gracious, very amazing, 107 was the last one, so this is 108. Care package from my friend. There was one from Lance Tomomoto from the Patreon. Then there was one from Charlie Wrighton from the Patreon. And then I got a second one. I got a third one. I think Charlie sent me 3 in a row. Charlie's been downsizing his collection because he moved into a different situation. And he's been sending some of that stuff to me. And man, I mean, I put up a review of this guy on my YouTube. The 50th anniversary LJN homage from NECA, Dungeons & Dragons, NECA Ultimate figure. Just bananas. Awesome figure. Thank you, Charlie, so much again. That's great. Too great. It's amazing. And then the next day, I get this from Charlie, which I haven't really shared with anybody yet. But same toy line, the NECA Ultimate Dungeons & Dragons. This is Elkhorn. I love this guy. There's something about this guy. He's not my favorite in the line, but this figure is amazing. And I love the vintage one, which is up there. I can't reach it. Instead, I got ice cream. But on my Patreon, I will post a giant photo shoot of this guy with the vintage one in comparison. Group shot of all the figures, because so far I've got the whole line, the regular line. The only homage figure from the 50th anniversary that I have is this, which is fine. I never get to buy toys because I just can't afford it. And my patrons spoil me, and I'm so lucky. I think it's some ice cream. So getting this stuff in the mail, it's Christmas times 10. Thank you so much, Charlie. It's very selfless and gracious and nice. Just, this guy is awesome, man. I don't know why I like him holding the torch there. He's got all these. He's got all this. He got everything. His backpack is loaded, by the way. It opens up. I've got like 6 different hands in there that he can alternate between. Ooh, I just knocked his thing, and it's a really good position. It's like at an angle. Anyway, excellent figure. Thank you again, Charlie, so much. You're an amazing guy. And everybody on my Patreon, I should say that right now, right off the bat. I'm about to finish this ice cream, I promise. This video is brought to you by Patreon. Or my Patreon, my community, not the company. They are awesome. They're so supportive in all the stupid garbage that I put up and do, and the cool stuff that I do. I'm sorry, there's a glare in my eyes. That's the computer, right? Yeah. Most of them have been with me for years. Shout out to the new guys that came in this month. It's great to have you. I hope you stick around, especially after watching this. Jeez. So yeah, if you guys want to support this channel directly, check out the Patreon. You can join for as little as $2 a month. I post. You can participate in this Q&A. I also post all my behind the scenes exclusives, tips and tricks, all kinds of stuff that I do. Whether it's toy design, illustration, my dog and my cat, it's all in there. And we even do like a annual meetup for whoever can make it in the Patreon. At Halloween, we do an annual meetup. We missed it last year because things were weird, family-wise and stuff, but we'll definitely be doing it again this year. We've done it for the last 3 years, I think. You guys will have to correct me on that. Just an awesome community. So, ice cream is done. What a dumb video I'm making right now. Anyway, one other thing that I'm going to be doing with this podcast is I'm gonna try to separate the audio from the video so that if you want to watch it on YouTube, you can. But I also know there's people who at least used to like to listen to it driving around. Ice cream is done. And there we go. And I'm gonna try to separate it so that you guys can continue to do that. So I apologize. The last episode did not have that, but I'm pretty sure I can do it when I edit this to separate the two. So look forward to that. What else? One other pickup I have to show you because it's amazing. I pre-ordered many moons ago. Holy crap. That just solidified that this was the worst video that's ever been made on YouTube. I apologize for that. I'm done consuming. Okay. I pre-ordered. So my first Transformer when I was a kid was Gears, the blue and red guy. You can't see him, but he's like just out of sight right up here. The vintage one. But when the Legacy series, which is basically a Studio Series 86, but he wasn't in the movie, so he can't be called the Studio Series 86. I pre-ordered him many moons ago. He finally came in. Look at that pose. That should tell you everything. He's an awesome figure. This is the best modern Transformer I've ever put my hands on. I think it's even better than the Optimus Prime, Earthrise, whatever, that everybody always says is the best. That Hot Rod is great, 86 Studio Series, but this is just, not only does it hit the nostalgia for my Gears, the first Transformer I had, but I'm not a big articulation guy, but his articulation is phenomenal and it's appropriate, you know? It's not like overdone. It's not, like unneeded or just there for the sake of it. His sculpt is amazing. His face is absolutely spot on to the cartoon. He's even got like this chest piece opens up, and I posted a bunch of pictures on Patreon, like 20 plus pictures, because he's so fun to pose. He's got his blaster that's like cartoon accurate. In the cartoon, he's kind of a wimp or weird, like whatever, but it's still a great episode that he's in. He's in a few episodes, but that one that is called like something about Gears, it's a great episode where Megatron brainwashes him basically. But I left him in this pose because it's just a great pose. Like, look at that. It's just like ready for battle. I'm going to mess everybody up. So great figure. Like I said, I pre-ordered him. It was kind of like a treat to myself. I think it was probably like when I got my substitute job back in February or something. I think it was it was like a treat to myself. Hey, finally got a part-time minimum wage job. Hooray. Anyway, let's move on to toys and drawing and stuff. Let's see. I'm going to share more of this. I shared it on Patreon. I'm going to share more of it on my AC Draw Stuff illustration YouTube. So go check that out. But it's I'll give you a little boom. Look at that. Amazing. That was a quick little view of it. And that's my Super Friends homage with all my characters. I created a new character just for that, and I'm refining him, and he's like this little white blob with, hi buddy, you want to come up here? With 3D glasses, because I do my 3D glasses series. It's kind of my trademark. You want to come up? All right, whenever you're ready. So anyway, I think that's everything. Oh, you guys can have a sneak peek at this guy. I've got the base colors down. I'm going to finish it tomorrow for Crescent from Marvel. Base coats down. Very basic. So there's that. One thing else that I want to reiterate before I get into the questions. I don't know what everyone, I've talked about this already before on the Patreon and I think in one of the podcasts, but if you guys use or have ever heard of Mr. Color paints, I absolutely would not recommend these. They are highly toxic to the point where when I opened the jars, me, my dog, my cat all started coughing. I know a lot of these chemicals and things should be used outside, but you shouldn't have to use acrylic paints outside. You should be able to use them inside. So I highly do not recommend them. They may be good paints, but I painted onto a thing and just to see how they covered, and the smell didn't go away off of that thing. So I can't imagine making a figure, sending it off to someone, and being like, enjoy, and it reeks of chemicals. So we're not going to use those, and I wouldn't recommend them. But I am still looking for a good acrylic paint. If anybody has some suggestions, in front of me I've got everything from what's left of my testers, which if you guys find a surplus of those, please send them or let me know, and I'll absolutely pay you for them. Army painters, Formula P3, Vallejo, Model Color and Game Color, Citadel, Tamiya, Turbo Dork, and none of them work as well as testers. They work fine, but testers, you know, and especially if I seal them, they're good to go. But testers was something else, you know, like I didn't have to seal them. I do very few coats. They dried quick, they cured fast, they weren't tacky, they didn't peel when you painted over them too soon, you know, like Tamiyas do. So anyway, still looking. I'm sure there's one out there. All right. That's housekeeping. I think we're good. Let me get a sip. I talked about Ghostbusters 4 last podcast. This time I should talk about DUNE. I rewatched the first Denis Villeneuve Timothée Chalamet movie in preparation for the second one that just came out on HBO. And I liked the first one so much better than the first time that I watched it. Really enjoyed it. I think I was expecting more action the first time I saw it, so it was kind of a letdown. It's not an action movie. It's hardly a sci-fi movie. It's a drama, and it's a great drama, and with great characters. Then I watched the second one, and I was like, holy cow, I think this might be better than the first. And if the third one raises the bar again, it might go down as one of the best sci-fi drama series, whatever you want to categorize it as, since the original Star Wars trilogy, I think. So, yeah, really good stuff. Obviously, it doesn't have any comedy, hardly at all. It's very dry. It's very dramatic. It's very serious, stoic. But Timothée Chalamet is he's great in that. I definitely don't want to watch him in Willy Wonka, but he's great in that. Made me a fan. So, great movie. On in the background is Beverly Hills Cop 2. I just finished watching Beverly Hills Cop 1. Both of them they've been on FX or AMC or something for the last month. So I've seen them now probably almost as much as Ghostbusters, the original. So 1 and 2. Great movies. Yeah, one of these days I'll tell you my story about Axel F. Anyway, on to the questions. Thank you guys who put questions in. There's always some staples in there of people I can always trust and rely on from the Patreon community. And then there's always like some new ones or some folks who like come out of the woodwork, which I always appreciate. So you guys are awesome. Either way, if you participate or don't, I love you guys. You're amazing. I can't believe that I'm so flattered, and I can't believe that you, enjoy what I do and enjoy me eating ice cream. You know, it's insane. No, I don't do that often. Usually I'm making stuff or whatever, which is what I do a lot of. So, and if you want to join the Patreon, again, it's just patreon.com/AdamCrohn, me, ADAMCROHN. I'll probably put it across the screen here, right there. But let's get into the questions. Oh, and you can join for as little as $2 a month. So it's all different kinds of tiers. First one is from Charlie Wright, and he says, AC, I've always been a fan of glow-in-the-dark, GITD, glow-in-the-dark, and blacklight reactive figures. I'm curious, have you ever taken a blacklight to your collection to see who has soul glow? You got that soul glow! If anybody's even still watching this, you're awesome. So, I have these shelves that I think you might have seen, Charlie and friends, that I house my Glyos stuff on and my Maba toys on, and I'll post pictures of that stuff with this post on Patreon. So if you want to see that stuff, check out Patreon. And the shelves themselves are you can put a black light on them and they definitely glow. They're not glow in the dark, but black light definitely. And like half of those figures, because you know they're all made out of like some kind of like resin, but people are always mixing stuff in the resin, and so yeah, there's a lot in there in those Glyos and the Mabas. If you don't know what the mini Mabas are that I'm talking about, my Chud Baby figure is a mini Maba figure. See that guy? My Turbo Death is a mini Maba figure, little resin guy. Look at that paint job, or it's not paint job, it's resin. It's a resin, neon resin mix. Look at that. I never released this guy. I'd love to release him, but I don't do resin stuff anymore because I live in a small studio apartment. It's toxic, and I also just don't have the money right now for resin. So Turbo Death will have to. He'll pop up at some point. These are the original sculpts of Turbo Death. It's a little washed out because it's white. Turbo Death is an homage to the Wraith, Charlie Sheen, 1986. What was the name of the car? Dodge Interceptor? Yeah, I got it. My brain still works. The ice cream didn't defeat me. And then Chud Baby, original sculpt. See, this podcast isn't so bad on video. You get to see stuff like this. And I'll post pictures of this stuff on the Patreon. I always do with the audio anyway. So, yeah, Soul Glow, definitely. Now, furthermore, Charlie, my patrons, I talked about the annual Halloween meetup that we do, which is always in St. Charles, Illinois. God, there's a lot of irony in this podcast. Look at this. I didn't even plan that. St. Charles. That's where we meet up. That's where Charlie and I and Charlie Gushy and a couple other guys met for the first time in real life. And I used to live there in the 80s when I was a kid. And when we moved into the house that's still there, it still looks exactly how it did when we were a kid. And if it ever goes up for sale, I'm going to sell everything I own to try to buy that house. When we first moved in there, and I went into my room, and I went into the closet in my room, I was scared to death. I was terrified on the spot because somebody who lived there before us left covering all the walls in the closet these blacklight posters, but they were like 70s blacklight, 80s, early 80s, late 70s blacklight posters that you'd see in like a hippie van or something. So they were like those real like sort of Dungeons and Dragony, Panthers, wizards and stuff, blacklight posters that now, had I held on to them, would probably be worth a lot of money and beautiful on your wall. I was a kid in the 80s. That was, like 82, 83, 84, 83, 84. It was 83, 84, 85, part of 86, maybe all of 86. And man, what a treasure. And I just didn't appreciate them as a kid. They scared the crap out of me. But they were beautiful, and they were blacklight posters, like with the velvety sort of the touch. So they were awesome. Charlie, I hope that answers your question, and I'll try to get, how did I do that before? I lit all my stuff up somehow with some light that I have. I think it was the LEDs I have in my room, but I'll get some pictures and post them on Patreon definitely for you. Charlie, thank you for the question. I know you come back later for your apocalypse question. We'll do that. Next up is Mark Tac Tac. And Charlie, also, thank you again so much for everything you sent. And I hope I see you soon. Okay? And my offer still stands. My private offer. Mark Tac Tac, he's here. He says, 1, AC. I've just attended MCM Comic-Con for May 24 here in London. And it got me thinking. Are there any Chicago-based Comic-Cons you attend or All Yeah Comics might attend? That's awesome, man. Mark, I saw your pictures and your posts that you put on Patreon, those links to your videos. They were awesome. Check out Tac Tac Toys. I think it's just, forgive me, Mark, Tac Tac Toys and Customs. You can look up Mark Tac Tac, you'll find it. He posted some awesome video coverage of that con that he's talking about. Posted it on Patreon, but it's also on my Patreon. It's also on his YouTube channel. Go check him out. That's amazing. I'm jealous. I've always wanted to go to that one. I probably never will because it's in London. But and the All Yeah Comics he's talking about here is All Yeah Comics in beautiful downtown Skokie, where my brother runs that shop. And it's owned by Art Balthazar, which is he's a good friend. He's an awesome artist. Tiny Titans, stuff like that, and his All Yeah Comics World, Action Cat. Here in Chicago, we have one of the biggest, and it's a Reed Pop, Reed Pop might produce the one that you're talking about as well. They do all the global stuff, but it's called C2E2, and C2E2 is a massive Comic-Con. It's every year, and it's been going since 2008. And in 2008, I had a really successful a reasonably successful podcast about comic reviews and stuff before anybody was podcasting. And along with Marvel and DC, Reed Pop was a sponsor, and they sponsored us and eventually my website, from 2008, the first year of C2E2, through not last year, but the year before, I believe, sponsored my website. So I have a lot of experience with that Comic-Con. It's great. I didn't go this year, and I actually didn't go last year, even though I think last year I had exhibitor passes that I didn't use, which was dumb. I just couldn't make it. But it's huge. The problem with these huge cons, though, is they lean towards where the money is. And unfortunately, that's turned the Comic-Con into more of a gaming and celebrity Comic-Con, which is I have no interest in either of those things. I'm interested in toys. I'm definitely interested in comic books, even though I'm minimizing my collection now and trying to sell that. But yeah, it's Artist Alley is there. It's amazing. It's got everything you'd want in a Comic-Con times 10, plus great churros and cosplay ladies and all that stuff. It's amazing. But there's an even better one, I would say, and it's Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I grew up, where I also grew up from 5th grade on, so that would be like 88, 87 through high school. Sponsored by Heroes. Sheldon Drum owns Heroes. He's a old friend, and his Comic-Con is great because it's specifically geared towards creators, and it's not as big as something like C2E2, but it's big, and it's popular enough, and he's such a great guy, and it's such a great con for creators that when Wizard World wanted to set up shop on the same weekend as Heroes Con and thought that they could push Heroes Con to a different date, everybody, all the creators, the big names who were going to be with Wizard, left Wizard and signed with Heroes because they like that con better. They like Sheldon Drum better and how he takes care of them and all that stuff. And Wizard World had to reschedule their weekend. So that's cool. That's how good of a con that is. So if you ever get the chance to check that out, check it out. It's great. And yeah, so this year I'm actually tabling at my first con, Artist Alley, or it's more of a illustration drawing con from what I can tell. It's very small. It's in one of the suburbs outside of Chicago. And my friend Chris, check out Chris O'Connell 2, I believe is his handle on Instagram. He's an awesome artist, good friend. He offered me half of his table, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. So I'm right now in the process of creating more prints, stickers, a coloring book, all with my characters and stuff. So that's going to be fun. A lot of fun. And it'll be my first. Mark Tac, he said, what's something you'd love to see in toy collecting as a sky's the limit style purchase pickup for a collection? So, for example, a full line of 80s G1 112 scale fully transforming Transformers, for example, or a full range of mask figures and vehicles in 112 scale to complement Marvel Legends, etc. So, what's something you'd love to see toy collecting sky's the limit style purchase pickup for a collection? So I'm guessing those are those two examples you gave, the Transformers and the Marvel Legends. It's interesting because they did those, that Transformers line called Transformers Red, I think, which were 6-inch scale Marvel Legends style Transformers, but they didn't transform, so people didn't like them, even though I guarantee the majority of Transformers collectors, 75% or more, don't transform their Transformers. They transform them when they first get them to see what they look like, and either leave them in a car mode or whatever, alt mode, or pose them like this and put them on the shelf and they just stay like that. So I have the Optimus Prime from that Transformers Red line, and it's cool. It's a really cool figure. It's right up there. I'll add him to the list. I should be writing these down. Let me get my pen. Here's my pen. It's right here. It's proof. I have a pen. And let me get a piece of paper right here. And I'm gonna write down Transformers Red. And there was another something that I'll remember later to grab. Oh, Elkhorn. This guy. I want to get his vintage figure and do some side-by-sides for Patreon. So those will be on there. Big photo shoot. Expect that coming. So yeah, and then like a 12-inch scale or a 6-inch scale Marvel Legends style mask line would be very cool, but those vehicles would be massive, you know? And I just don't see a price point fitting in anybody's budget long term. It's one thing when they do like, you know, a crowdfunded His Tank or, you know, something for G.I. Joe Classified every once in a while, but you need a whole toy line for Mask. You need a whole line because those vehicles are the line, although the figures are amazing. So, but I would love that. I could see a blister card, 6-inch scale Mask figures, just like G.I. Joe Classified, as long as they were the vintage figures, but just bigger, which is what Classified eventually became. They started that G.I. Joe Classified series all wrong, and I think you'll agree, with all the armor and the updated stuff. That didn't look like G.I. Joe. That looked like Valverse or something, which is cool, but it's not G.I. Joe. And then finally they came around and said, why don't we just make them look like the vintage figures, only 6-inch scale, which is something no one's ever had, so that'll work, and it does. Those figures look amazing. So do a mask style like that on the blister with the mask in a separate bubble up here in the accessory bubble, like old G.I. Joe stuff, with a nice card. Man, I would be all over that. And I wouldn't even need the vehicles, you know, because I don't want a huge vehicle anyway. I've got the vintage ones over there. I'll post a picture of those as well, and on Patreon. And you know, so whatever. So anyway, mine would be if there was a 6-inch scale, but I think you were just saying you would like a 6-inch scale. So my sky's the limit style purchase pickup for a collection. It was so weird to. I don't know. I was gonna say Tron. I was gonna say. But I love my Tron figures how they are, and I don't care to have, you know, a super articulated one. I don't really need it. Something like, you know, here's a good line that could use an update is Battle Beasts, right? Am I right? Battle Beast would be awesome. 6-inch scale. I don't know. I kind of see them. I mean, Elkhorn here. I keep coming back to this figure. He's so awesome. This is 6-inch scale. He's not 6 inches tall. He's whatever he is. Well, maybe he is 6 inches. I guess these are more of a 7-inch scale figure. But if you had something with Battle Beast that was smaller and chunkier like this, you can make him as articulate as you wanted. I think that would be kind of a cool line, right? It lends itself to, you know, the original figures had 2 points of articulation, if I'm not correct. Yeah, the heads didn't move, so it was just the arms. The arms would swivel, and that was it. And then they had the hologram stickers. So that would be a cool one. And then I always go back to Dungeons and Dragons. You can give me, as cool as these NECA Ultimates are, they're big figures. They take up a lot of space. If you gave me even if you gave me like a, you know, Star Wars Vintage Collection style, like a 3 3/4, 4-inch articulated line. I think that would be cool. I'd buy them if they, you know, as long as they looked like the vintage figures, because that would be small enough to collect them all. And or even like the masterful, absolutely masterful Mine's got all this weird armor on it, but oh, there's one. I'll show them both. Absolutely masterful. What do they call them? Marvel Legends. The 4-inch Marvel Legends. These guys, right? These are amazing figures. I don't know why this toy line didn't last. Why didn't you guys like this toy line? This one's got Knights of the Slice Acid Rain armor, cowboy armor on it, because I was messing around with it to see if it worked, and it did. This one's just the regular figure. This is a great toy line. It's a great toy line. It's 80s. It's fresh. It's 5 POA, which is what I love, you know. And I've got, I don't know, 15 figures over there from this toy line. You know, they ended up going on sale. What do they call it? On blowout or whatever it's called. And so I was picking them up for like $3 a piece towards the end. So I grabbed a few, and they're just great. They're fun. They're super vintage style feel, which is totally my game. So give me a toy line that's that size, that's Dungeons and Dragons, and it could be 5 POA like that. It would be awesome. Which I guess would be the reaction figures from Super 7, but Super 7's not doing. Why hasn't Super 7 done War Duke reaction figure? Why is that not a thing? I don't get it. Or Strongheart, or Grimsword, or Kellic, or Wriggle Run, or Elkhorn. What's the dwarf's name? I don't know. What's the dwarf's name? Man, a Tiamat Super 7 reaction figure? Seriously? Why hasn't this happened? So there you go, Mark. That would be cool. So those are my two. Battle Beasts is probably my number one. Why hasn't that happened? I don't know. That's a Hasbro property. Why is that just sleeping? I don't get it. Great question, Mark. Mark Tag. Are there any 80s movies that spring to mind that you feel could benefit from a modern toy line that haven't had one? Example, Die Hard from NECA, something like that. Did they not make Die Hard reaction figures? Because that's a shame. So I mentioned that I've been watching, Beverly Hills Cop reaction figures. Come on. I'd buy an Axel Foley. Absolutely. I'd buy Surge. Absolutely. Taggart and Rosewood. Absolutely. What's Ronnie Cox's name? I forget. Anyway, he's great. Ghostbusters. Why is there not a Ghostbusters reaction figure line? I don't know why I keep looking over here. The camera's over here. Yeah, so that kind of stuff. 80s movies that spring to mind, you feel better if you have a toy line than have them. So yeah, those are some. I think you come back and you ask this, so I won't spoil it till we get to your question. But yeah, there's a movie that they haven't done one of that I'm surprised as well. Any John Hughes movie, I would take action figures of. Uncle Buck. Are you kidding me? John Candy. Is there a John Candy figure anywhere? I don't know. So yeah, there's a bunch. You know, it's weird that I haven't picked up the Teen Wolf reaction figures, because Teen Wolf is one of my top nostalgic movies. It's definitely in my top 20 80s movies, I'd say. Teen Wolf. Maybe 15, because of the nostalgia of it. Give me a keg of beer. That's awesome. The scene where he's in the closet with Boof and he claws her by accident. The music that's playing, man, that's just a great movie. Yeah, I know they did Back to the Future ones, but Marty McFly, he's awesome. I don't need to pick him. So yeah, I could probably go on with that 80s movie thing all day long. Tron, I would love a Tron reaction figure line, even though the original figures are basically reaction figures. I feel like I'd buy them anyway, especially if they were on cool cards. I'd probably just leave them on cards since I have the originals open. But yeah, I don't know. I could go on and on. What else? Let me look around at my 80s stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of 80s toys that are based on movies. Is there a Beetlejuice reaction figure? That would be great. So if you're new to this podcast, you're new to me, you're kind of probably starting to feel like you're starting to get my vibe. I'm a very 5 POA toy collector. Always vintage, or vintage first. Give me a t-shirt that says vintage first. You know what I really like that they ended up doing, and I have, is I have a short round figure now that I've wanted for like my whole life. And you can't see him. He's way up there at the top. But I have the Indiana Jones one as well. Thanks to my friend Art Baltazar that I mentioned earlier. He got me these as a gift. So yeah, short round. So that's an 80s movie that I'm so glad has figures. I don't know, I could keep going, but I won't. But there's a lot. I mean, like I said, John Hughes. I feel like there's a shortage of Schwarzenegger reaction figures. Commando Raw Deal. That's not a thing, right? I would love that. He should have an accessory that's a log. Puts his hand up, carries the log on his shoulder. You know, so there's tons, man. Die Hard is a great example. I can't believe that hasn't happened. So, Mark, thank you. I know you come back later with some more questions. Charlie Gushy, my good friend. He says, as I believe we've discussed before, and I miss you tonight, Charlie. It's Friday, and there's no Joe Bob tonight. Last drive-in. We usually, Charlie and I text during Joe Bob, and while we're watching it, kind of watch it together. And another thing, like, and I mentioned it earlier, but like, these are all guys that and folks and people that I joined my Patreon. I just find this so amazing. They joined my Patreon because they like my art. They wanted to support it. And over the years, we've become friends to the point where we're hanging out in real life, eating sandwiches. Charlie's mom makes like the best apple butter I've ever had in my life, and she brings it to me. It's amazing. We text during Joe Bob. Charlie writing, sending me stuff and hanging out, and you know, at some point he's gonna sleep on my couch. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, I'm just so thankful for you guys, and it blows my mind. So Charlie says, as I believe we discussed before, sorry, tangent, I'm quite the fan of the genre mashups, so much so that I've been working on a series of heroic sci-fi fantasy short stories for a while now. Anyways, my question is, what are some new, or at least new to you, me, genre mashup stories you've enjoyed as of late? They can be any genres and any medium. One that's like pretty common is comedy / whatever. And lately I've been watching, so Tubi, and I might have sent this list to you, Charlie, I can't remember, but Tubi, it's a free app, they don't sponsor me, but it's great. They recently put on like a bunch of really obscure 80s movies, most of which are comedy, but a lot of them have a mix, so I guess you call it dramedy, like a mix of like comedy and drama, like serious drama. And one that was new to me, but always there, because I'm a fan of all the actors, is the Survivors. Robin Williams, Walter Matthau, and then there's a third guy who plays like kind of the villain. I can't remember his name, but you recognize him. And it's definitely like, you go into it thinking it's, 80s, I think it's 83, so it's like 80s, Robin Williams, Walter Matthau comedy, but even though the comedy's there, it's a very serious movie. It's got some serious undertones to it, and it's very relevant to today. So I highly recommend that. There's The Survivors. It's not, belly laughs. Like, don't go into it thinking that. Another one was Dan Aykroyd and which one was it? Oh, Dan Aykroyd. It's called On the Couch. On the Couch. It's also on Tubi. And it was Dan Aykroyd, Charles Grodin, Walter Matthau again. So they must have got like some Walter Matthau deal, and some other people. It was so good, but it also wasn't as comedy as I was expecting from a cast like that. But something I'm realizing about Dan Aykroyd movies in the 80s is that they're all great. Obviously, we know Ghostbusters is great, 1 and 2, and like, what's the one he did with Chevy Chase and Demi Moore, where he plays a guy who has a penis on his nose, an old man. Anyway, it's a great movie. But when you get Dan Aykroyd just kind of like 80s regular, he's hilarious in a very unique way, to the point where, and he, I don't know, he always balances this, like, or has this edge of like melancholy to him, sincerity and melancholy, where it's like you're not going to be laughing the way that you are at him in Trading Places. Trading Places, he's hilarious, and he's meant to be that way. But there's a lot of his comedy that's like, it's not intended to be that. It's intended to be more like satire, I guess, you know, like a statement on society. There's a lot of stuff that he does, especially younger. When he was younger, he did that. So those are a couple that kind of fit that, I think. I think that I mentioned Dune earlier, and you know, Dune, you talk about your heroic sci-fi fantasy. Dune, like I said, it is not, I don't think it deserves, it's definitely not action. I don't think it deserves to fall dead strictly into sci-fi, because it's just not. It's so drama, but the sci-fi elements that they have in there are like very sci-fi. And tonight I'm hoping to finish the original 1984 Dune. I hadn't seen that in probably 30 plus years. And I watched the first half last night. And that is pure sci-fi, you know, pure sci-fi. But these are more close to the new ones are more close to the Frank Herbert books, from what I've heard. So they're very dry, and they're just like soap opera drama, but like good, serious soap opera drama. There's not a lot of action, but when it's there, it's there. There's not a lot of sci-fi, but when it's there, it's there. But they're just like family dramas, like feuding family dramas, like Hatfield McCoy style. So I think that's a really good mashup. It's not even a mashup, it's a balance, I guess. It's like a plate of drama with action and sci-fi sort of teetering it, you know, like this. And it's so good. I'm really surprised, because I didn't like the first one when I first saw it, and when it first came out. I was like, it wasn't what I was expecting. But after watching it again and then watching the second one, it's just like, man, these are great. So anyway, those are a few for you, Charlie. Thank you, by the way. Again, Charlie, thank you for the questions. So, Josh Blum, recently saw, if you guys don't know Josh Blum, check him out, 13th Hour Podcast. I'm on like 20 episodes or something. I don't know, something crazy. But even when I'm not on, it's a great podcast, 80s vibe podcast. Josh has some amazing guests and does all the music for it, which is great. And then Josh is just an amazing friend and great person all around. Cheers, Josh. So this is great. And the reason I love Josh's questions is because Josh is a very busy man. He's got like 2 kids, a job, all this stuff. But one thing that Josh, I've realized over time knowing him, he is a man of priorities, that I feel like, and maybe Josh disagrees, but his family comes first, his, you know, and his work and all that stuff, and all this fun stuff that I sort of put at the top irresponsibly. He doesn't make tons of time for it. He does make time for it, but it's only when it's like when he has the time for it. So I get these questions from Josh. My point is that he and I are like the same age. We're both 80s kids, and I'm always surprised at some of the questions like that he didn't know the answer to, or he wasn't like as steeped in the dorkness that I am, you know, which is like, why would I expect anyone to be that way? I've wasted so many brain cells on absorbing dork, you know, over the years, which I don't regret. you know, if I knew as much about quantum physics as I do about comic books and drawing and toys and stuff, I would probably rule the world. I don't know, something like that. But so Josh has these questions that I'm always like, oh, he doesn't know the answer to that. I would love to talk about that. So here we go. Recently saw the original Star Wars on the big screen. His town did a showing for 5/4, which was Star Wars Day, for the first time in years. Some questions generated by this viewing. What is Darth Vader a lord of? I love it. I love it. He's the lord of the Sith. Darth Vader is, so we all know that the Emperor is just the Emperor, right? He's a Dark Lord of the Sith as well. But because he's the Emperor and he's the top dog, everyone that falls underneath, and over the years, like millennium, hundreds and hundreds of years, that the Star Wars universe galaxy goes back, there have been numerous Lords of the Sith, to the point where in the Old Republic, like Empire, you know, like Jedi Council as we know it, there were like dozens at one time Sith Lords. They're Lords of the Sith, and the Sith is just an ancient religion, a sect that uses the Force and stuff like that. So it's different, you know. It's interesting that like they created this character Kylo Ren, who I love. I think is maybe the best part of that new trilogy, and he is the leader of the Knights of Ren. But they never go into the Knights of Ren. They never go into how he's the leader and why he's the leader and who exactly he's the leader of. We get to see the Knights in the third movie very briefly and sporadically and poorly introduced, if at all, and poorly used. They look great, but they're poorly used. So we get this character, Kylo Ren. He's the leader of the Knights of Ren. And when you read the comics do a good job of showing you that history. And I wish that would have adapted. Whereas with Vader, we've seen the rise of Vader. We haven't seen the rise of the Sith yet. And I think that's something they plan to do. I think one of the movies that they're doing is going to be like the beginning of the Jedi Order, like way back, which Yin Yang would have to also show the beginning or something of the Sith. So there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of extended universe EU stuff that I don't know. Charlie Gushy would be a great resource for that. So Charlie, if you're watching this, feel free to jump in and correct me or expound on what I'm saying for Josh's question, because I know you would you're into all that EU stuff, and you've probably gotten into more old lore, you know. Also, my friend Jeff Muller, Patreon member, one of my best friends. Jeff, if you're watching this, feel free to chime in, because Jeff knows like the Old Republic stuff way better than I do. So that also goes into the video games and all that stuff, the comics, video games, the EU books, Timothy Zahn stuff, all that. But basically, Vader is just the Lord of the Sith, and the Sith are, you know, what he is. So he's one of the lords. Although when the Emperor, when Plagueis, Darth Plagueis, who was Darth Sidious, the Emperor that we know, his master, Darth Plagueis, he's the one that created the rule of two, which means one master, one apprentice. And it was Plagueis and Sidious. Sidious killed Plagueis, took over, took several apprentices throughout time, one of which was Darth Maul, Darth Vader. They were all Lords of the Sith. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff, man. And if you're not like marinating in it 24/7, I can totally understand why you'd ask this question, and it's a total valid question. Number 2, he says, is it unrealistic Luke knows how to fly an X-Wing already? We hear he's a great pilot, but we never see him doing any training at all, even basic orientation. He used to target Womp Rats back in his T-16 in Beggar's Canyon, man. Yeah, we never see it. In the Obi-Wan show, which is rotten garbage, in my opinion, we get to see Obi-Wan give him that little toy. It's like a fighter pilot something. and we see him on top of one of those of the igloo things that they live in, like going like zoom, zoom, zoom. And I guess that's all the practice you really need in Star Wars. That said, he rides around his T-16. He rides around that sand speeder thing, you know, to go to Tashi Station to buy power converters and stuff, or to find R2 when he runs off. So, is it fair to say that that's enough to pilot an X-Wing? No. But the other thing that goes into him piloting an X-Wing, at the time that he does it, he's already somewhat in tune with the Force. So he's using the Force. And Obi-Wan's there with him. And even though we don't really see him use the Force until the end, you know, when he takes the targeting array off and hears Obi-Wan and he's, use the Force, Luke, and like, does that. That's like, we actually see him use the Force while he's piloting the X-Wing. I believe that the entire time, from the second he joins the rebellion and gets in his first X-Wing, he's using the Force, whether he knows it or not. It's with him, and it is, because he's already trained a little bit to get to that point. So there's that. Number 3, why doesn't Chewie get a medal at the end? He helped as much as the others do. Josh, I'm pretty sure you've seen. You're right. That was ridiculous. Even back in the day, I was born in 76. So Star Wars came out in 77. If I was sitting in the theater in 77, I would have been right off the bat like, hold up, man. Like, Chewie did just as much as anybody else. Why is he standing there just screaming? He's probably saying, where's my medal, when he's screaming, you know, in that ceremony. He's like, where's my medal? He's like that, you know? So, yeah, I don't know why they didn't give it to him. To me, that seems racist. Against Wookiees, you know, like she's like, walking carpets don't deserve medals. I don't know, something. Anyway, but if you've seen the new trilogy, which I'm pretty sure you have, he gets his medal. Leia leaves it for him when she dies, and Maz Kanata gives it to him, and we see that scene. It's after Leia's died, and she hands it to him, and he like, you know, he's like, look at this. And then he goes and he shows everybody, look at this, I finally got one. It's a bit on the nose. It's very late, but they gave him a medal. You know, that's the only flaw in that Force Awakens movie that the Rathtars are a bit much, but they're fine. I've grown to accept them. But other than that, just the fact that Chewie gets snubbed, and this is a tangent, but the fact that Chewie and Han are best friends. Nobody knows Chewie better than Han, and nobody knows Han better than Chewie. Not even Leia. They've been together their whole lives, and especially when we come to them, they were together before Leia, and then at some point Leia and Han divorced or whatever, separated, and then Chewie and Han were still together after for however many years. So, life partners, you know, and the fact that Chewie gets snubbed from a hug from Leia after losing Han, he should have been he should have been everyone's primary concern. How is Chewie doing after Han died? We need to watch out. We need to take care of Chewie. He needs hugs from everyone. You know, just, that was insane. And what's his face? BB Rex, or what's the director's name? John Beebe? I don't even know. DB Sweeney? What's the director's name? J.R. Abrams, whatever his name is. Jeremy Abrams? What the hell is his name? I don't even know. J.R. Ewing. Abrams. J-Abrams? J.J. Abrams. There it is. J.J. Abrams. He's even said in interviews that that's where he screwed up. And I agree. But other than that, I love that movie. I don't know why I even went that way. Ferris Bueller's on TV. Such a great movie. So anyway, Josh, great questions, man. I love answering Star Wars questions, as you can tell, and as you know, otherwise you wouldn't ask them. I know there's Star Wars dorks out there, just like total sweaties that are be like, excuse me, but this and this and this. That's fine. Go for it. Join the Patreon and write some stuff, you know. Josh Blum, he's got another one. He says, you've mentioned that The Breakfast Club is one of your favorite films. So, a few questions. I love this. It is. Breakfast Club and the original Ghostbusters trade places back and forth for my favorite movie of all time. Yeah, those are the top two. So, questions. Breakfast Club. What do you think happened on Monday a.m.? Did anyone stay friends? Did the romances last? What happened when they passed each other in the hall? Oh, I love this question. And I don't want to... Do you ask that next? No. I don't want to see a sequel or anything like that. I've seen a recent interview of them, the cast, at a con. And Anthony Michael Hall cannot... He has the worst ADD I've ever seen in my life. Nothing against anybody with ADD, but it's like, that guy is just a terrible interview. And Molly Ringwald seems very conceited, but that doesn't take away from their characters in that movie. So, what do you think happened Monday a.m.? I think that... I really do think that Bender and Claire dated, at least for a little bit. They broke up. They didn't, get married or anything. But I want to say that they dated. The exchange of the earring at the end, and the fact, the greatest scene in cinematic history, hands down, is Bender crossing the football field with his fist in the air in that freeze frame while Simple Minds is playing. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful, and it's so poignant to the film. And I feel like he does that. Man, he's so happy in that moment. He's so accomplished in that moment, and he's so looking forward to her and in his life and whatever they're gonna do, even if they don't make it. So I really do believe Monday a.m. it was like, or that weekend probably they saw each other again. Monday a.m. I feel like they were like, maybe they didn't like run up and walking down the hall holding hands or anything like that, but they were definitely in each other's orbit, and I think they spent a lot of time together after that. I think Anthony Michael Hall, Brian, I think they said hi to him, I think that he's the little guy. He was the little guy in the bunch. He was the most vulnerable, I guess, or impressionable. Maybe not most vulnerable, but impressionable. And I feel like they respected that, and I guarantee from Monday a.m. on, Brian had bodyguards. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had every one of those people. Andrew, Claire, John Bender. I always forget her name. Captain Crunch Girl. It'll pop in my head. Ali Sheedy. What was her character, though? They were all looking out for him. Definitely. Because that happened to me. I was him. I wasn't as smart as him, but I was him as far as, like, getting bullied, beat up, all that stuff. And now it's like, bang. But it wasn't until, like, mid-senior year, high school, that I started, like, getting friends, joining student council, joined a band, started lifting weights. All this stuff changed, and like I had a friend network that towards the end there that was very diverse, and I think Brian has that now, and I think that he's going forward, and he's like, not in a cocky way or whatever, but those people were there for him, I think, throughout the rest of high school. And I could see, man, if there was anything I would like to see is a movie where we get to follow Brian, and at some point you see Bender. Brian's getting picked on behind the bleachers or in the locker room or something, and Bender shows up and just whoops ass. Like, Bender and Andrew are just like, let's get him. And they just go and kick a bunch of dudes' asses. But I don't want to see different actors play that, so that'll never happen. I want to see Emilio Estevez and Judd Nelson, but they're old now, or older, and it's just like, too bad. But in my brain, that's what's happening. I think that's amazing. Did the romances last? Andrew and Ali Sheedy, no. I don't think that did. I can't see that. It was a weird couple. Because what she was what she was. She was the Captain Crunch girl. She was, you know, when she got all cleaned up and stuff, yeah, she was pretty. But that wasn't her, I don't feel like. You know, you should be you. And he was who he was. And they're both maybe good people, but I don't see that chemistry. And there was nothing throughout the movie until that last scene, which is fine. It's not a fault on the movie. It's a very cool turn. But I could see Bender and Andrew kind of being like, hey, what's up? Cool, what's up? And then the rest of the school being like, those two are friends? It's like, yeah, they probably didn't hang out. They might have like bummed some dubage and like gone behind the bleachers and smoked for, you know, after school or in between classes. But other than that, no. It's not like those two guys and Brian are going to go grab cheeseburgers. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think they definitely looked out for each other after that. So yeah. Number 2, next question with Josh Blum's Breakfast Club. What happens to the Breakfast Club kids when they grew up? What did they turn out like 10 to 30 years later? Do their hearts, in fact, die when they grew up? I think Andrew stayed blue collar. He might have continued with wrestling, but there's no like careers in Greco-Roman high school wrestling. So that's a weird path to be on. I don't know where that leads, but that's not like a career path you hear of, you know, nowadays. So he definitely went blue collar, probably working in some car factory or something like that. Brian either went one of two ways. Either way, he's family married man with kids. And he either went business, like banking or something, or he became a teacher. And I'm not sure which way he went, but somewhere in there. Science teacher or banker, something like that. But he definitely had a station wagon with the wood paneling, just like his mom did when she dropped him off. He kind of followed suit, but in a more successful way. How you define that success, I don't know, but like not as drab, you know. Molly Ringwald, Claire, she definitely married rich. I think a lot of them just defaulted on back to who they were, because that's who they are. They say that you are who you are. By the time you're 20, you are who you are. And when you leave high school, you're 18, 19. I was 19. So, yeah, I changed a lot, but also, I also didn't. I don't know. So, Claire, married rich. Andrew, blue collar. Brian, also blue collar. I don't know if you consider bankers like white collar, but you know, teacher, something like that. Ali Sheedy, she became a mom, I think, and like a stay-at-home mom, and not necessarily rich. She didn't marry rich or anything like that, but she's not like married to someone like Brian who's a teacher. She's married to someone who's like, you know, middle class, which is great. Middle class, kids, all that stuff. Bender, John Bender probably cleaned up, you know, like cleaned up his act. And I think it's probably because of Claire, even though I don't think they made it together. But I think that relationship showed that he is worthy of something better, a better lifestyle than what his parents had and were giving him, you know? No, what about you, Dad? And cigarette burns and all that. So, sorry, I've got something in my throat. But I think he probably went, you know, blue collar, or he went something like stock trader kind of guy, day trader. I can see that happening. I think he played some characters like that. He probably played a version of Bender in another movie like later in his life. Even like in New Jack City, where he's a vice cop detective, that could be Bender. I think that could be Bender. Who knows? But yeah, Bender's amazing. top 5 fictional characters of all time for me, along with Kyle Reese, Dwayne Hicks, John Bender, all the Ghostbusters, you know, like Peter Venkman, Winston. So yeah, I don't think, you know, they all lived decent lives. I think. I don't think any of them I don't think any of their hearts died when they grew up. I think they were helped by that day, that one day, because it showed each of them that they could be something more than they were stereotyped as, which was amoral of that story. The boxes people were putting you in high school and stuff like that. That's why I love that movie so much. There's so much to it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful movie. Josh, you're awesome. Thank you for that question. Both those questions. We got 2 more here. Charlie Wrighton's back. Now, the people who don't know the podcast, Charlie Wrighton is a master of the apocalypse. He always gives me a question that's like a what if in this apocalypse, and it's just like, I don't know where he gets it from, but it's amazing. So here's this week's. In the inevitable Red Dawn style takeover by the horseshoe crab cyborgs apocalypse, okay? We're being taken over by cyborg horseshoe crabs in a Red Dawn style, right? Invasion. They subjugate all humans, and to add insult to injury, they take all the oats for themselves. My patrons know I'm a huge, and YouTube on my channel, you guys know I love Hall & Oates, especially John Oates. Unfortunately, he's wrong, but whatever. And the cute horses they ride, jeez, they take all the oats for themselves and the cute horses they ride. My question for you, AC, is which golden girl and one single perfect stranger, so that's either cousin Valky or cousin Larry, do you partner up with to take it all back, and how? America! Hashtag bro, they have blue blood, must be British, try crumpets. Charlie. So, alright, let's break it down. For those who don't know what horseshoe crabs are, man, they are crazy looking. They're the ones that look like this. They look like... boom, boom, boom. Kind of like... they don't look like this. Kind of like that. They're about like... adults get to be about that big. You always find their shells washed up on the shore. They got this long tail. Almost looks like a stingray, but it's a crab, like a shell, all this stuff. We used to find their shells all the time back when the environment wasn't so screwed when I was a kid. And they're just like, you flip them over and they've got all these legs, and if they're females, they have all these eggs that they carry underneath. Amazing creatures, most likely aliens. I don't know. These are cyborgs, though, that we're talking about. They also ride horses. They steal oats. And I need a golden girl and one of the cousins from Perfect Strangers to partner up with to take it all back. Man, all right, so let's go with the Golden Girls. I was just in a class this week where the teacher that I was subbing for was a massive, the biggest Golden Girls fan that I've ever seen in my life, and I'm gonna post those pictures on Patreon. Golden Girls, I'm writing it down. So much so, and I'll put my drawing in there. So much so that I was compelled to draw something for him. So I drew a picture of 4 gold bricks, 24 karat gold bricks, with each of their faces, the Golden Girls' faces and hairdos on it, and standing, whatever, hanging out together, and I left it for him as a gift. And one of the kids gave me their markers, and it was like a gold metallic, like Sharpie or something, so it made it really nice. So ironic that you asked this question this week. I don't know the Golden Girls as well as people love the Golden Girls. I don't understand it. It's old women talking about sex and weird things like that. It's like, what? I need to watch some episodes, I think, because it's an 80s sitcom that I haven't really gotten into. You know, I know Betty White's in it, and isn't one of them named Madge, I'm sure, or Margie, or Stella. Is that what their name? So I need to watch some, but I know Betty White. Everybody knows Betty White. So I'd probably pick Betty White not because she's the most popular and people still love her and all this stuff. That's fine and great. But man, I've seen some Betty White interviews recently where she was just amazing. She was funny and smart as a whip and quick wit. She would make these jokes on like Carson and stuff that just blew everybody out of the water. And I got some respect for that. So Betty White, because of her wit, her quick wit and her sense of humor. And like if you ever get to see her like roast someone or cut someone down, like she's a master. There's a video, I'll try to find it, maybe I'll post it with this. I'll post it on the Patreon. Betty White and I just lost her name, but I'll find it for the what's her name? Margot? No. The host, Joan Rivers. Betty White and Joan Rivers. I'm writing it down. Joan Rivers. And they're just kind of going back and forth. It's hilarious. So we're going with Betty White, and then man, this is really hard to pick one of the cousins from Perfect Strangers because that's my second favorite show of all time, next to Frasier. And they're both so great. Cousin Larry is just like endearing as hell. Balky seems more dependable only because Larry lies so much. Also, he seems more practical and stuff when it comes down to it, and he's just honest and sincere as hell. So I'm gonna go with Balky, and I'm gonna go with Betty White, cousin Balky, who is Bronson Pinchot, and Betty White, and together the three of us are gonna rid the world of this cyborg horseshoe crab invasion that's stealing all my oats. Charlie, you're awesome. Thank you so much. How we do it, I don't know, but we do it. Mark Tac, and this is our last question. Thank you guys if you hung in this far. I mean, ice cream, why did I do that? I don't know. AC, would you like some NECA? This is Mark Tac. AC, would you like some NECA or Super 7 Reaction Breakfast Club action figures? If possible, please answer this question after breakfast. It's nighttime, man, so yeah, this is after breakfast. So, NECA or Super 7 Reaction Breakfast Club action figures. What a mouthful right there. Let's see. NECA, if they did Breakfast Club figures for NECA, they'd be, highly detailed, reasonably articulate, which that's one thing that these figures, they have some articulation, but it's not worth bending them up and posing them. I think you put them in a hero pose and you just leave it. If they were to do that with real people kind of stuff, Breakfast Club figures, and it was NECA, it would probably be like a NECA Ultimate, in the box with the door window on the box. They'd be highly detailed. They'd look great. I would definitely buy Bender. I don't think I'd buy any of the other ones. Maybe Molly Ringwald, Claire. But Bender definitely. And I would just pose him, and I might even make like a diorama for him to walk through. And that would be it. That would be a cool figure to have. It really would. But if Super 7 did reaction figures for them, I'd buy the whole line. And I'd probably buy 2 of each so that I could leave one carded and one not. And if I opened the ones that I opened, I would build a diorama of the library, and they've got to have what's his name, the teacher. Damn, I was just trying to remember his name because he's in Trading Places. It'll pop in my head. Anyway, mess with the bulls, you get the horns. He's Paul Gleason. Boom, Paul Gleason. You got to have him. You got to have the kids. You got to have the janitor. And I would make a diorama of the library, and I would eventually, throughout my lifetime, make each car that they arrived in. Because each car was unique to them, told part of their story. You know, Andrew in his dad's pickup truck, totally. Claire in the dad's sedan. Brian in the wood panel station wagon. Bender walked, and Ali Sheedy, yeah, it was just like a Datsun or something like that. So that would be great. I would love, yeah, and then I would buy so I'd buy one set to keep carded for display. I'd buy one set to put in my library diorama, and then I'd buy an extra third Bender to make the football field again, just like I would with the NECA one, where I could put him in it, and he'd just be, 5 POA, so he'd be like this with his hands straight up. But those would be great, man. It blows my mind that they haven't done Breakfast Club figures, so maybe that's something I'll have to work on. I'm sure I could put those together if I, add them to the list of millions of figures that I'm trying to catch up on. Awesome question, Mark. Great way to end it. Thank you so much. I think that's all I got, guys. This is an hour and 25 minutes. I need to thank you guys so much. Anybody who's watching this, thank you, first of all. If you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Like this video, even though it was probably a very highly unlikable video. Hopefully I'll get the audio by itself and put that onto Patreon. That'll only be available on Patreon. Along with the images and pictures and photos that I'll post with this post. What else? If you want to join the Patreon, you want to support this channel directly, Patreon's the best way. And all these links will be below this video, along with my shop, my other channel for illustration, AC Draw Stuff. My Instagram's AC Draw Stuff, AC Toy Design. Mom gave them away for 80s stuff. What else? Yeah, Patreon. Patreon.com/Adam Crohn. That's me, ADAMCROHN. Thank you so much to my Patreon members. This would not be happening without you. You guys are amazing, just so supportive over the years. New supporters, I'm so glad you decided to join, to check it out. Again, I post like all my behind the scenes stuff, works in progress, lots of works in progress. You can participate in this podcast, ask me questions on the Patreon. That's exclusive to you guys. And if this doesn't work, the video format, then I'll just put it back to Patreon exclusive. But I thought I'd try this, and I think we're still finding our footing as far as it goes. But as long as my Patreon members are enjoying it, that's all that matters. So, or that's what matters the most anyway. I love that you guys stop by on YouTube and hang out and spend your time watching me. So, yeah. I'm always taking suggestions on more stuff that you'd like to see, more stuff you'd like to see of, or see me do, or whatever. And check out the tiers on the Patreon, because I've added new ones where we can, everything from like basic membership support, stuff like that, to sticker packs. I took down the custom commission one because I need to catch up on those. And you guys who have been waiting so patiently, I cannot thank you enough. And I promise stuff is on the way. These last few months of substitute teaching, which is a job that I needed a part-time gig at least, has definitely drained me in a lot of ways, but you all stuck with me and I really appreciate it. So school's over after next week, and I'll have a lot more time to do stuff. So is that it? What else? There was something else that was leading into something, but I can't remember what it was, so I'll just end it there. Thank you again. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys in the next video. And look for like midweek, I'll post a new post for questions for next week's for the next podcast, to ask questions. So thank you guys. Be safe. It is a wild, wild world out there, and a lot of crazy things happening right now, and a lot of even more crazy things on the horizon. So be careful. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family and friends. Help people that need help. That's so, so important, because not enough people are being part of their community. And if you guys know me, community is number one. Whether it's your family community, friend community, the community you live in, the apartment complex, whatever. It's important to create that. The communities that I create virtually on Instagram and Patreon and YouTube are invaluable, and I've met some amazing people through there, some of my best friends. So cultivate community, friendships, be good to each other, take care of each other, be better than the next, and leave everything better than how you found it. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys. Get some oats. Boom! Look at this thumbs up. I left that out last time. See ya. Sit, Muji, sit. Good dog.